right, we are here. It is Fuller time. Look at this. This is a lot of it. You are. I guess you're kind of a little celebrity here.
I wouldn't say little. I mean,
we got people super excited about you joining.
What's up, Jeremy? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are the gurus. I'm just here for the ride.
Look at this Fuller time.
For real this time.
You're even in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, look at me.
Look at that.
That's my AI me. That's the AI me.
The little bot.
I built a bot duplicate of myself.
Bot Fuller. Bot Michael Fuller.
Bot Michael Fuller.
Yeah, okay. Welcome, people.
What's up, everybody?
A lot of excitement here. Yeah. So, welcome to the Tech Audio Chat. I am Dan Reynolds.
Dan the man.
I have heard that. I have, yeah. That's one of those things that every Dan gets relentlessly. No,
my favorite is when in the Discord, the Unreal Discord, the people who don't know who you are, and they're like, "This Dan, who's this Dan guy telling us about stuff?" I'm like, "You may want to listen to that guy."
I think that you should take everyone with a little bit of grain of salt. Like, no one knows. This is the thing that you learn, as you grow is it's all bullshit, and no one knows how games are made. Literally, no one knows how games are made.
We're all faking it.
It's like everyone wants the right answer, but there's only one right answer, and it depends.
It depends who you ask, right? It's like how many gaming designers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Yeah. No one knows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's always a wrong way to do it, though, right, Eric?
Yes. Well, there are many possible wrong ways to do stuff. There's usually multiple ways to do things correct as well, or as correct as you can really.
There's a lot of correct paths. Yeah.
Well, this is okay, yeah. So let's talk about correct paths here just for a second. So this is people call this a podcast. A podcast to me in my old man brain is something that is related to iTunes because they have the iPod and iPodcast. That's where it comes from. Podcast.
You're a boomer, dude. You can't handle the word podcast.
Boomer.
You're such a boomer.
There's not enough white going on here for be a boomer. But
this is a podcast, man. I hate to break it to you. It's a podcast.
Here's the thing. So what I can talk about the vision. This is the vision that I try to tell people the vision. The vision is just cool people hanging out, geeking out about tech audio, game audio, that sort of thing, and sharing stuff that they work on because we're excited about it, and we do this shit in our free time, despite the fact that we also do it in our non-free time, right? Like, so that's
it's a privilege, right? It really is a blessing.
Yeah. And also some of us have families. I don't have any. I live alone, so I don't have anyone to annoy with my geeky interests. So this is another outlet for me.
What about you, Eric? Do you have kids?
No.
Oh, I'm the only dad here then.
That's right.
And I'll bust out all the dad jokes then. I get extra grace.
That's right. Yes. Oh, look at all those folks. Ed's in the chat. Steven's in the chat.
What's up, Josh? My buddy Josh.
That's right. That's right.
Josh. Anytime
you aren't sure, you can always imagine Brian with a little chef hat.
Oh yes, I do. I should have brought. You know what? I should have brought my chef jacket out of my attic and wore it to this thing. I have a chef's jacket. I have a culinary degree from Le Cordon Bleu, Miami. Right. So, I have never cooked Miami for a living in my life. Yep, but I love to cook at the house. That's for sure.
Oh man, I like cooking too.
Oh, I love food, man. Oh, gosh. I love it. Last week, y'all started talking about food, and I started getting hungry. Or 2 weeks ago. I guess you didn't do it last week.
Yeah, I didn't do it last week.
Cool.
So, but here's the thing is we're on YouTube. We're on other thing, LinkedIn, I guess. But I don't like the YouTube. Like, I think social media is a disaster. Like, social media is really powerful. It's a really, it's, I mean, like, social media as a concept is like this wonderful way to connect people, right? But it's also horrific because it's completely managed by corporate interests, and we have these weird sort of isms that pop up because like some UI designer decided to like make a thumbs up button. You know, like these things sort of like have this strange dictate over the way we think about engaging with people. And so I'm not like super interested in the like please subscribe and like and hit the bell icon, like that stuff.
You
I don't
just
care
said
if you
it.
do that or not.
2 minutes from now, our stream goes down, totally black.
That's right.
No one knows why.
So yeah. So anyway, yeah. That like that. You know. So I struggle with the forms. This is like
Sure.
David last time we were on was trying to like push this. You know, the whole like, hey, it's a stream. Subscribe to the stream. Like, I sort of feel like bucking those forms sometimes.
But he did it with the British accent, so it sounded cool.
Australian.
Oh, well, whatever. It's I mean, you know, you say tomato, I say tomato. All right, mateys. All right. There's some shrimp on the bar over there. I got a shout out to my boy Vin in the chat room. Vin works with me at Probably Monsters. He is a genius
nice.
programmer. Yeah.
Games are easy.
That's
the genius part, obviously.
We have this running inside joke all day long, squishing bugs, and Vin's always like, bro, games are easy. Come on, man. Unreal. It's a Boolean. There's a Boolean somewhere, right, Eric? There's a hidden Boolean that fixes pretty much everything in Unreal Engine.
You gotta find it.
Yep. Whole game doesn't work, and there's one Boolean there.
Yeah.
Would you like game to work? True. Okay, there it is.
Right.
Yeah, someone pushed that wrong in the last build.
Yep, fixes all your frame rate. Suddenly lighting works. Suddenly groom work. That's like the worst of the whole like hair grooming. That's like the thing that breaks all the time. I see.
Oh my gosh.
Not to call out other departments.
No, not at all. We're all
never us.
We're all a team here.
That's right. We're all a team.
I mean, we're all, you know, it takes a whole team to get K-pop monsters in there, baby.
Yeah, I mean that's
that was inevitable, man. K-pop Demon Hunters. I was like, that's perfect for Fortnite.
Is that out? I can't talk about Fortnite. You know, I can't talk about Fortnite.
You didn't.
I can't talk about Fortnite.
I think it came
Eric
out today.
definitely can't talk about Fortnite.
So if anybody wants to talk about Fortnite, I'm your man.
That's
right. I do not.
Right.
I do not work at Epic Games.
That's the real Fuller time.
Ed Lima in the house.
Yeah. Man.
So we're supposed. So I hate to break it to you, Dan, but this is a podcast, and it's a lot of fun.
I appreciate that. I hope that it's fun for. I hope that it's fun. I don't know about fun, but I hope that it's something for people. That it's not like. I don't know. I hope it's something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Murphy's awesome. Chris, if I've learned anything from Chris, yeah, it's true. Yeah. So Chris Murphy's actual evangelist. That was actually something we brought up before the show. Before we went live was I don't see myself as an evangelist. The reason I talk about Unreal so much is that I've been working at Epic Games for 9 years. And so I work in Unreal for like a lot of time. Like that's just what it's the area, the technology that I'm most familiar and experienced with at this stage. So but I'm not opposed to talking about other stuff. Someone asked about why is like some way up in the top here. Oh, this was 2 days ago on LinkedIn. I mean, it's a dream. I just, the thing is that the last time I worked on a Wise project personally was probably over 10 years ago. So I'm not the best person to chat about Wise. Brian, you've been at Probably Monsters for. Actually, we didn't do actual introductions, did we?
No,
Everyone, because everyone knows you.
We went straight to you ripping social media.
That's right. There's no real structure here. It's just chaos. Yeah, welcome to Tech Audio Chat. Welcome. My name is Dan Reynolds. I am the person. I am the musicianeer. This is what I called myself at some point, and it stuck. And I like the idea, and I go back and forth of whether or not I'm engineer enough to have the name, or musician enough to have the name. I'm joined by Brian Michael Fuller, who you all know as Brian Michael Fuller Time.
Fuller Time.
And let's give him extra props because he's missing the football game.
Well, my season was over 2 weeks in when my quarterback Joe Burrow got hurt because his offensive line stinks. So I'm already done with football, and it just started. So I'm okay. But thanks for caring.
Yeah. And I'm also joined by Eric Buchholz, who is also a sports fan, but this time baseball fan.
Well, I guess we could count that.
Mariners are doing pretty well this year, so.
Oh yeah.
And
That's right. You guys are both in Seattle, right?
So we're in the Seattle area. I don't live in Seattle, but near Seattle, within throwing distance of Seattle.
Okay.
If like had a really strong arm. Who was that quarterback you mentioned? That
Russell Wilson?
Was it Russell? No, that's not. What
Seahawks, right? You talking about the Seahawks?
No. No, it's just don't forget about it.
Oh yeah, you're talking happen. Sports ball now. You're talking.
I tried.
Venturing into the unknown.
GPT can't keep up.
Here's the thing: is I lost interest in football when I was walking across campus back when I used to go to University of Colorado Boulder. And I was wearing my favorite green shirt that day. I was feeling pretty good. And then everyone on my 10-minute journey from the humanities buildings to the engineering building just derided me. It was just yelling at me and telling me to go home and all this. And I was like, what's going on? And it turned out that UNC was there that day for a game. And that was the end of me wearing that green shirt. So
UNC, I'm 15 minutes from UNC. I'm right up the street. I'm in North Carolina.
No.
UNC North Colorado,
Northern Colorado. Yeah.
Oh, the other UNC. Yeah, does not compute.
UNC, based in is it Greeley? I think I don't remember exactly where, but it's it smells of cow manure just all over that whole town. It's just cow manure. All right, yeah. So,
not enough about Sprots.
How about the local sports team? Yeah, exactly.
Funny story though. Since we're doing this about audio, Weird Al Yankovic has a hilarious song, and I think it's called Sports Anthem. But the whole song is about how crappy your local team is. It's funny, and if you're into audio or music, you should go check it out tonight on Spotify somewhere or something like that, or some other streaming service that Dan hates.
Yeah, Spotify I don't care for that much.
Yeah, they took me off too, but that's a topic for another day.
Okay. So yeah, welcome to the Tech Audio Chat, people. Now that this is good banter here. So Brian had requested that we talk about mixing. So I said maybe, but I said probably mixing. With that in mind, do you have anything specific that you'd like to share?
Well, I
think that's a huge topic to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, two things. One, because I have a YouTube channel on gaming audio, I get lots of emails and questions, as I'm sure you do as well, and so many times it's about mixing and audio. I mean, they're all tied together, right? Technically, and there's all these tools that we have inside the engine, attenuation and occlusion and stuff that help us balance these mixes. But I think for a lot of people, I mean, I think there aren't that many people actually that have mixed a game to completion, right? I think most people are either like in the field now working or trying to get in the field working, or they're maybe about to ship a game. I mean, it takes a long time to ship a game, and most people who work in the industry, few have actually shipped games, right?
Right.
Unless they're veterans. So I think it's such a big topic, and most of us have lived in the world of mixing, right? Like music and audio and DAW production. So most of us are familiar with that. But then when you get into the game engine, and when you get into this whole idea of this living, breathing thing that you are now trying to balance in real time, I think it's mind-boggling for a lot of people. And so there's two aspects to it. There's the technical side, right? How do I do this? What's a control bus? How do I use a limiter? Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then there's the whole philosophical, artistic, admin side
Yes.
of how do you mix a game with 10,000 weapons? And so I think it's just this big topic that keeps coming up, and there's really not a lot of content out there about it, especially for people who are experienced like you guys, that have worked in major, huge games and have, been around people that are doing it at a really high level. So I think it's a big topic, and I think it's just worth talking about and kind of seeing where the conversation goes.
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts. I can definitely lay them out. I think that, but I also don't want to dominate. I also have like a couple editors open if we want to actually look at Unreal, if we like want to get into particulars. But also, I think this is such a juicy topic that we could talk,
Very big.
we could even just talk about it. But I think so. Like you come from a music background. I came from a music background. I think all three of us came from a music background. Actually,
Eric's got a drum kit in the back.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we think of the term, like the actual word mixing, right, comes from this sort of console-based process, right, where we have our channels, and we're routing, and we're submixing, and the mixing is literally summing together these sources, right, and that has been sort of codified in recording and engineering as as including things like processing and applying I guess like applying effects and processing is like one of those things that technically isn't included in the mixing term, but is part of the mixing process,
definitely,
right?
a huge part of it, right?
Yeah. And I think also I think what's also really important about that word is because Hollywood is like unionized. There are aspects to that word that are actually like specific actions that you do. Like these are the tasks that you perform as part of your job as like a sound mixer.
Yeah.
And so I think what's challenging about the talking about mixing for games, first of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that I would assert that mixing for games or interactive experiences is probably one of the more complex or challenging parts of the production process for these interactive experiences.
Yeah.
But
no doubt.
it's very difficult to tease apart in a traditional mixing sense, the technical aspects and the creative aspects, because the technical decisions and the creative decisions happen in the same place, right? They're in the same, they're like part of the signal path, and you're like, I am, coming in with a EQ to like remove something that's causing muddiness downstream, or all this sort of stuff that these decisions that you make. And it's very difficult to sort of tease apart like what is a creative decision, what is a technical decision. And I think that challenges us in games, because we are like so the what is assigned a technical decision is sometimes a different person or like a different domain, a different language. It can sort of get really, really technical. And so I think that the form, the form of mixing, the process has to be something that is sort of top down dictated, right? And is very difficult to come at the end and sort of apply. You really need to have this
It's
idea of
impossible. Yeah,
you really
yeah.
need to have this like at the very beginning, and this is I think in a music production scenario, you have already made a lot of pre-production decisions. You've maybe already written arrangements for musicians. You've booked people, all this sort of stuff. That sort of like you're going to have this. Maybe there's going to be some mystery. Maybe there's some exploration that happens during the recording session if you're sort of a chaotic producer. But right, because like sometimes that's the case.
Oh,
So you're like, oh, we're
of
going to book the
course.
studio for the whole day, and you're just going to sit there and like
Yeah.
come up with stuff. But for us to the mixing all has to sort of a lot of decisions have to be made up front before the mixing can actually happen, and the recording can even happen. And a lot of decisions just the signal chain itself going down to like whatever you're going to tape or going to your computer or whatever you're going to. So many decisions have already been made. Mic, the amp, the whatever sort of upfront coloration that you want to apply to an incoming signal, all that stuff happens before it's even captured and usable, right? And so, but that's very difficult to do up front. Like it's very difficult sometimes when you're working on a project, you don't even know what's going to happen. Your pre-production phase is sometimes determining even the ideas you're going to pursue in a project, right? And so there's a lot of ambiguity coming into an interactive experience that makes it very difficult to know upfront how you're going to mix and then make sure everything along the way, because you could be talking about decisions that you make in year one, right? This isn't like a weekend studio excursion. You're making decisions, 1 year that's going to impact the things that you do 3 years later, because our dev cycles are so long too. So I just think it's like, it's very challenging. So I have been thinking about this all week in terms of organizing the signal flow aspects of mixing, and we could talk about the mechanisms for management if we want to get into specifics with Unreal. I'm happy to do that, happy to go into those areas, and talk about the things that exist to in those different areas of signal flow and processing. But I do feel very strongly that so much of because it is entangled with creative decision, that the actual tools and form of mixing has to conform to the project's aesthetics, and the project's aesthetics are going to vary from project to project to project. And that's actually one of the reasons I have a trouble bringing up an example, because I have been involved with or have actually mixed a lot of our sample projects, and the things that I did on each of those were shaped by the project itself, and so the mechanisms that I use were not necessarily consistent or the same. And then also we have this sort of weird arc of technological progression where something maybe seems less usable at this stage, but in this different scenario now, because it's 2 years later, is suddenly more useful for the work. So
Yeah, it's funny because coming from the TV music industry where everything's linear, right? And You hit play, and it's the same every time. You hit spacebar, you stop, you go back, you hit spacebar, you tweak the EQ, you hit spacebar, you whatever. And I think a lot of the challenge for audio people that I've witnessed myself personally over the last few years is just you really have to let go of everything you know about like mixing audio, and you have to approach it from an entire different perspective. And it is no longer about mixing this thing that is static. It's about how this game works. Like, what are all the things that are going to be happening? And what's challenging is, the first studio I worked at, we were all busting it at the same time. So no one really knew what was happening next. So it's like, I needed answers to questions that no one could answer, because it hadn't been decided yet. How many locations are there going to be? What sort of ambiences? How many weapons? How many enemies? All these basic things. And so as an audio person, if you don't have that, it's kind of like sitting down to mix a Grammy Award-winning album and not having any tracks yet, and so I think a lot of it is changing the mindset probably of how you approach it. You have to really approach it differently, but then also understanding the tools that are available, like understanding how the game works, and because every time you hit play, your experience is going to be different. Yeah. So you have to mix concepts. You can't mix things. You have to mix experiences, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, okay. So
such a small topic, right?
No. Well, so so when we're talking about the sort of creative aspects of mixing, I fall back a lot on the sort of Walter Murch, right? Two and a half things, or this thing and the other thing, sometimes it's called. And for anyone at home, I'm looking for this. If anyone has the link to this sort of classic Walter Murch resource, let me know, because I'd like to add it to the description, video description. But basically, the assertion there is that so Walter Murch is a sort of legendary sound mixer from classic movie era, and his 2.5 things is like there are 2 things that a person can hear and understand at a time.
That's good.
And then anything else is sort of disruptive to understanding what's going on. Mm-hmm. And in film, this is oftentimes like dialogue and then either sound or music, and so there's a lot to, he's got a lot of theory, and there's a lot you can analyze from his practice, because he pioneered a lot of the sort of things that we now use on the regular in terms of mixing. But I think so. But here's what's important about taking that in, going into an interactive experience, and that is you need a way to determine at any given time what the most significant sounds are. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think what's frustrating is we don't usually have a good way to deal with this. It's something that we kind of have to build based on the game experience, like however the game.
What do you mean we don't have a good way to deal with it? You mean technologically or like philosophically?
I mean both. I mean, in a way that in a way that the tech can inform the process.
Gotcha. Don't you think that's like the main thing though with gaming? Like, I feel like the artistic part is extremely important. I think we would all agree. But in games, especially in my experience at least, it's like the tools really lead the way until you get into a point where you need a new tool, and you have someone like Eric who can make it for you. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think a lot of times it's like, because let's just say this. I feel like a lot of, especially audio people, they try to reinvent the wheel so much. And I've seen this in the chat forums with Unreal Engine. I've seen it on my own channel. It's like, hey, I want to build this whole new reverb system to do, and I'm like, bro, the reverb component works just fine. And it's like there's this inherent desire for audio people, I think, to just like make things harder than it really is. And when in essence it's like there's already a tremendous suite of powerful tools that are, unless you're building some bespoke music game, right? And you need new tools and you build harmonics or something. But it's like, for the most part, I think sometimes we over technical, whatever the word is, but we're musicians, right? We want new gear. We want to buy new stuff. We want to play with new hardware. We want to do all this stuff. But sometimes it's just like, just sit down and use the tools you have and just make it work, right? Mix that bad boy.
I guess. I like. So
Eric's laughing. Eric's about to explode.
Yeah. Just the two going back and forth. It's great. It's very entertaining.
I'm glad about that then. because so you can decide what is important. Like, so for example, let's say you've got a shooter game or something like that, right? You can be like, okay, well, we know that in most tactical shooters that weapon sounds and footstep sounds are going to be like the most
super
important,
right?
Right. So like,
yeah.
So there's certain decisions like that can inform practical applications, right? You can say, well, okay, we'll make sure that the weapons and footsteps are a little bit extra forward, however you decide to do that. But I go back to these sort of cinematic examples where
What about like movies and stuff, like Transformers, like, and big huge movies.
Or I guess like how about Braveheart?
Oh yeah, freedom.
Braveheart won Academy Award for sound mixing in like 1995 or something like that, and it has lots of moments where the sound is extremely focused on small details, the
wheat scene when they're walking through the wheat field. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was incredible.
Wait, are you thinking of Gladiator?
Yeah, what'd you say? What are you talking about?
Braveheart.
Oh, Braveheart, the other one.
The other one.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. No, yeah, okay, all right, Braveheart, totally different.
Gladiator, I think, was 2001.
Yeah, both Hans Zimmer though, right? Yeah, I think so.
No, James Horner for Braveheart.
Oh, that's right.
That's how Horner got Titanic.
Oh, not too shabby.
And then he died in a plane accident.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
A lot of great musicians die in plane accidents. Be careful out there.
Yeah, don't get on planes if you're between 25 and 35 and you're a rock star.
But
sorry to interrupt you.
That's cool.
Cinematic.
So, in those situations, it's very clear. It's very like you have the director, you've got sound supervisor, you've got composer, all these sort of players in the layback session. They're like saying, "This is the thing we want to zero in on. This is the thing that's important to focus on," and they bring that out with sound. That kind of like that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we want that brain trust.
Yes.
But like in our game where we can be like, okay, so they're looking down sights, and now we want to have everything else like wash away.
Yeah.
We're focused on the one, like that kind of stuff. Those, I think, are the kinds of ways that we can really excite people and engage people and have them connect to the experience in like a really visceral way. And it's more than just sort of managing, like it is a lot of chaos, right? But it's like, it's about the focus. It's about what you want the player to experience.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because with cinema, you're doing everything after, right? You're filming it, you're editing it, and then the Foley guy comes in and goes, "Oh, what should I add? This is gonna be awesome." And then the composer then gets that and goes, "Okay, what gaps can I fill in?" Whereas with games, it's kind of like, man, you're gonna get what you get, right? If some player goes and just blows up everything, now you got all this Foley, and then if you just happen to have a score that's super epic there as well, and then now as the mixing engineer, you're going, oh man, how do I handle this? Right? Like I did not expect this situation. And then 3 minutes later, you're in a tavern, some medieval tavern with chit chat right in the background. And like, okay, now, so I think it's like that kind of like, it's kind of scary actually, when you think about the task, how daunting it is.
Yeah. Yeah. When I worked on like one of the hardest mixing jobs that I had, and please be kind if you go listen to this, because there was never any good outcome possible with it. But that was the Project Chaos demo that we had when Epic announced their native physics engine, they wanted to show it off big time with a demo where you're like a robot chasing another robot through a city of robots, and you're just demolishing the city because you just keep missing your target. And so, buildings are crumbling down and explosions are happening, and there's like car alarms and, chain guns and missiles.
Total chaos.
It's just, it's
Literally.
insanity. Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, there's this constant voiceover that is
Oh my
directing
gosh.
you to go to the next thing,
Yeah, it's all of the things that should not be together.
Yeah, exactly. It got to the point where I actually, because it was a live demo, and it was being performed by one of our gameplay designers, Evan. What was his last name? I forget his name, but he was awesome. I loved working with him, by the way. But I was like, Evan, like, could you just, when you get to this point, could you just stop shooting just for a second? Because there's no way I can get the thing to duck right for this one VO
for
line
8 minutes. It's called mute, right? It's called mute button. There's a fine line between ducking and muting.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the time we actually like the mechanisms that we had were not very sophisticated. We just had the sound class and the sound mix system.
Wow. Passive sound mixing?
We had passive sound mixes for, the VO, and we were also on top of that to like sort of make things worse is we were in a theater with a 5.1 system. This was
wow.
the Yerba Buena theater, and it was very old. It was definitely, community PA kind of situation there. And they had removed they were like, we need more dialogue. We can't hear the dialogue. And they had actually removed the center speaker, the lower center speaker, to extend the proscenium forward. And so
wow. All that was gone.
So I had been mixing like the VO like super high, like just so that it would be audible from the top speaker only,
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty. And then also the house mixer was just making adjustments without telling us, and so we were kind of chasing some ghosts. And all of the feedback had to go through these 6-hour cook cycles because they'd go back down.
My gosh. Yeah.
There was no sort of like hot fixing volumes on sound classes and stuff like that, like we do now. In fact, audio modulation was a response to that experience. Like we made that because that was such a disaster for us. That we wanted something. We have all these live mixing features built into audio modulation that people don't know about. Just because we wanted to be able to like have basically a tablet with OSC managing the mix, right as like give the instant feedback kind of situation.
So people are afraid of audio modulation, I have found. And I've spent the last year trying to help people understand it as well. And that's part of, what we were talking about earlier, like the evolution of the mixing console mindset.
Yeah.
And then so in Unreal specifically, you get the audio modulation, which is fantastic, but it's still not visually and theoretically it doesn't really mimic the mixing board visually. It's conceptually similar, right? And so I think and that's where people get confused and people don't understand the power behind it or how to use it because they're still thinking mixing board, but it's not laid out like that, right?
Well, so if we're talking about Unreal specifically, it is worth noting that Unreal's signal chain is almost identical to your mixing.
Yeah, you just never see it like that.
It's just not well visualized.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that is I think that's the place where people disconnect.
Yeah.
Because they're not able to get past that part until the light bulb goes on, right?
Yeah. So you have actually let me talk about the sort of signal chain, because I think that mixing happens at several stages. And I think it's important to sort of acknowledge each of those stages in an interactive experience. And this is regardless of how you decide to attack the like concept of the mix,
the philosophical,
the sort of artistic aspects of it. So you have your mix starts with your source. Right?
Okay.
And so
I think everyone can relate to that, right?
Yeah. So,
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, your mix starts with your source. Your game mix starts in your DAW, and the sounds that you're authoring. If you're authoring a group, how you balance them, and how you process them before coming in to the engine, before bringing them into engine, influence a lot in a big way.
Preach,
what
brother,
you can do later on, right? So,
honestly, it's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely,
and most overlooked.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've worked on mobile games where I'm fencing assets, right? And there's no like real concept of mixing. I mean, I could tell the programmer like, yeah, could you drop that a little bit? But like,
right.
Like I would not do that. And so like I'm mixing. I've got like a paint over of the game in my DAW. I've got like a screen capture of the play, and I'm working on it. And then what I'll do is I'll print that to video and put it on my phone, or
and
whatever.
See what it sounds like.
Yeah, and then I'll go to like a cafe and like listen to it in like a potential listening environment, right? It's kind of like using your car speakers, right? If you're making a tune. And so in that case, I'm doing all the mixing, all the balancing, all the processing at the source level, and I'm just fencing the assets. And so you can do everything there. I think what happens is when you start thinking about how these things play together, how they actually combine, and then what happens to the sounds when they do, right?
Yes.
And I think that that becomes a really challenging area for people, because you get this scenario where you get like a sound designer is building a sound in isolation, and they're like, this is the fucking
sounds
best sound
amazing
in the world.
Earth shattering.
It's full spectrum, and then you put it in the mix, and then when the
game
actually plays,
puts a low pass filter on it.
it's just like low mids like just blasting out, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think
what happened to my huge explosion? It sounds like a peanut now.
So that is very similar to your guitar. I see all the guitars in the background. That's very similar.
Those old things.
Oh, those old things. That's very similar to guitar effects. Like you're sound designing with a guitar when you got like a pedal board and you got your like amp and everything set up, and you're recording that into your DAW. And what is one of the things, if you're going to be, you're going to be doubling, or you're going to add a bunch of guitars, you're going to start scooping out those low mids,
immediately.
Right? Immediately, you're going to.
When I mix audio, when I mix music for television, I mix like for an hour without even listening to the song yet, because I just go through all the channels and put EQs and cut stuff. Because you already know this acoustic guitar is not getting anything under 200, right? Yeah. You just know right away.
Yeah. So I think that like if you're recording, I mean, this depends on let's put it this way. When you're recording, if you're recording super hot, if you're compressing on the input, right, shit's going to be loud, right? It's going to be loud, and it's going to take up a lot of space in your amplitude, sort of your dynamic range is going to be really tight. And so that's the same thing. If you record, like, let's say you're recording, a wind instrument or something like that, you're gonna like have that. You're gonna try to get the gain just right, so you get like a lot of dynamic range coming in, because you want to do all kinds of stuff with that sound. Or if you're recording source material for sound design, right? All that sort of stuff is the same. It's so if you are producing assets that that have a lot of dynamic range, you're going to have a lot of dynamic range to work with
Yep.
in the engine. And so that's the first place where this is gonna impact. And I think one of the gotchas, especially for people moving from a traditional mixing scenario into a game mixing scenario where you're separating all the little pieces and you're recombining them, right? Like you've got if you're doing like a paint over as an example, right, in your DAW. A paint over, by the way, is just like if you got a screen capture, video capture of the gameplay, and you're just sort of like designing it like a movie.
See what get the feel for it, get the vibe for
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It could be really
Yeah,
good.
because
Good
people are
idea
probably
for
asking,
concept
you
work.
can mix a game in your DAW?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of us do traditionally would apply submix effects, right? Like like reverb or compression on a
Yeah.
group, like group compression, group EQ, all that sort of stuff. And so that's something that is a gotcha when you're building out individual assets. If you've got a paint over and you have a group compressor or a two bus compressor on the output, that is going to account that the sound that you're hearing is accounting for all of the input, right, at once.
Yep.
And when you start exporting individual assets, even if you're running it through that same compressor, it's not going to have
hitting it the same.
it's
Yeah,
not going to
it's
hit
not
the
hitting the
threshold
same.
right the
Yep.
same way. And
Yep.
so what you have to kind of think about is like every individual asset has to have its own sort of
Mastering
path on the output, right? So you need to account for that as well. That's a little gotcha. So once you get everything out into the engine, then you have the next stage is going to be how you're balancing sources.
Yeah.
Right. And the way that I like to go is I like to have my sources balanced in mixing groups. I just like to have this is where sort of like, the influence of how you're going to manage aesthetically the mix influences how you decide to group things. And so I like to group, like, it could be something simple, like here's all the footsteps, and
Do you have a max group count in mind? Like, where do you cut yourself off at when you're just, okay, now I'm just basically stimming everything?
Well, no, what it is, it's about control, because the one thing that you have to appreciate about a game engine, a game audio engine, is that it's a runtime experience. So that's one of the big differences between your DAW and a game engine, right?
Yeah,
like
and it's a massive difference. Yeah,
it's a massive difference because your DAW can add latency for days. Like you hit the play button and then wait like half a minute, right? And then all the stuff is ready. That's how your DAW. You can freeze tracks.
Bro, how many tracks are you mixing, bro?
all of the tracks.
All of them.
All of them. So I also, I used to write music in the 32-bit era, right? And so I had like a separate machine just for, VSTs.
Oh, you had like the Vienna whatever. I
had the poor man's version of that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. That was a big thing for a while.
It was just like a solo. It was a live VST host software.
Wow.
I forget what it was called.
I never got that insane.
Yeah. And so, anyway, understanding that difference means that there's a lot of inbuilt optimizations in the game engine. So the game audio engine is going to be optimizing for some of the most expensive processes, and decoding audio is one of those expensive processes. It's very expensive to decode audio. And so if you don't have to decode a sound, then you don't want to. So in other words, if you play a sound and it is silent, you do not want to actually play the sound.
Right.
So determining the sound's volume as early as possible is really important in terms of performance. And so what you find is there's the first stage in mixing is managing source volume levels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by the control groups. So you asked how do you determine the threshold of control? It's basically the most granular I want to be able to manage this in runtime.
Like
You know, like
weapons.
it could be something broad like that,
Yeah.
or it could be like, uh, it could be like footsteps and weapons broadly. If you looked
Yeah.
at Project Lyra, that's what you'll see. You'll
Yeah.
see control bus for weapons. You'll see control
Yeah.
bus for footsteps.
Yeah.
But it could be something where it's like, actually, I want to be able to manage, say, the different materials or textures
Yeah.
separately, and you could go that deep. Uh,
Sure.
but I would only go as detailed as you feel is necessary
Yeah.
for your scheme, whatever you have in mind.
Mhm.
And so, and that's so yeah. Coming back to the, if you can actually have, these sounds are actually zero volume or negligible volume, then we don't
Don't
want to
need them.
we don't even play them.
Well, you get back to the rule you're talking about. What's his name? Mark
Walter
something?
Murch.
Yeah, Walter Murch. Yeah, I never heard that, but it's so, you see a lot of times people in the forums, hey, I got 19 things and I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, dude, you might hear 2 or 3 of them, right? Explosions is a great example. How many explosions can you possibly hear at the same time, right? Before you're really asking yourself, what's more important, the resources, the voices that I have available, or hearing 5 lanterns?
Right.
And that's a philosophical / technical question, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that that's where something like HDR mixing attempts to solve that, right? Because HDR mixing, for anyone who's not familiar with HDR mixing, is basically a way of creating a priority system.
High dynamic range, right?
High dynamic range. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of a,
Yeah.
they co-opted the term.
Yeah.
But basically what it does is it manages the priority of sounds based on a sound pressure level rating, right? So one of the things that's, ambiguous is, okay, let's say you've got a sound recording that is like a sound file that is a whisper, but it's full dynamic range. It takes up all the space. And then you have a sound of your explosion, right? Well, those
It's just
have
plain
the same
loud.
amplitude
Yeah,
levels,
right, yeah.
But one should be louder than the other.
Right. Yeah,
One
exactly.
should be louder than the other.
Yeah. It's
But
kind of like LUFS, like the perceived loudness of
it's
something.
well, yeah. I mean, it's how we want to. It's the presentation of it, right?
Yeah. How you want someone to feel when they experience it.
Well, and this is where I actually argue against HDR systems, because HDR systems use this SPL rating where you'd give the whisper something like 30 dB, and then you give the explosion something like 120 or 150 dB. That obviously is going to create a priority range there, and then the way that the HDR system works is it'll have a dynamic range window that is your sort of psychoacoustic perception range, such that loud sounds sort of raise this window, and things that are below that, the sort of floor of that window, are silent, right? And there's some volume management there that you can sort of apply to graduate those differences. But that's kind of how. But it's simulation oriented. This is where I get back to the the cinematic example, because sometimes you don't want the explosion to be louder than the whisper. Sometimes you want the whisper to be in focus, right?
Yeah.
And that's a more aesthetic decision that is based around the significance of a sound in this particular context, in this particular scene, in this whatever the scenario is. So that's where the HDR systems are sort of automatic, and I have anecdotally I hear a lot of people sort of say, well, it kind of gets you so far, but then you have to sort of take the reins, and do things yourself. And Aaron's got a really great story that I will spoil, but it's okay. He's a good storyteller, and so you can hear him tell it again. And he's also prone to tell stories over and over again anyway. So, but he's got a great story where he was at Sledgehammer, and they had worked on Modern Warfare 3, and then they're going to Advanced Warfare. And you can actually listen to both of those games, because there was a kind of event that happened in the late aughts in game audio, and that was a game called Limbo. And Limbo reminded us that games could use silence effectively, right?
Yeah.
And so you hear this transition in that time window of games starting to move from loud as fuck to
The loudness wars.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen. And compare the old Modern Warfare 3 to Advanced Warfare, or you can even compare the old Modern Warfare 3 to the new Modern Warfare 3, which has a much more modern, sensibility in terms of dynamic range. You'll hear a lot more noise in the gun design, and it's just like everything's sausage, like
Yeah.
amplitudes and
Yeah, just cranked.
yeah. So and you can game the HDR systems with like fake SPLs and stuff like that. That's a whole
Yeah.
that gets like it gets a little weird. And again, it's not always the case. Sometimes it's not an asset by asset situation. It's a
Yeah.
contextual thing that's happening at the time.
Yeah.
And that's the sort we think about games. We want to maintain that sort of dynamic response.
You know what's crazy is just the other day I was playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild,
Yeah,
and I was like, dude, this game is quiet.
yeah. It's got a lot of
I was like, there's some soundscapes, there were moments where there's no music, and I'm like walking away from it rethinking my entire approach to life. I'm like,
Yeah.
am I doing everything wrong? But I was like, it's like the silence like draws you in. There was lots of you have to like be really brave as an audio person to use silence, right?
Maybe I guess so. Maybe
Again, like I don't know, I've never done it.
I
Loud,
love
baby.
You
I
need
love-
to make sound, not make silence.
It's
Well,
not what you say, it's what you don't say.
I love ambient like building
Yeah.
backgrounds. I like
Yeah.
background sound design. I like ambient sound design. And one of the things that so on the UE5 announcement project, where Echo the character goes through the caves and climbs up the thing, and then goes to the tomb and opens the thing, and then flies down to the portal. That project, I mixed with like Travis, who was the audio director, like over Zoom. It was awful, but I had actually set up a control surface,
Mm.
and I had assigned. I had a fader port, and
Oh,
I had assigned
PreSonus for the win.
yeah, and I had a fader assigned to each of my control buses, and then what I did is I set up a bass mix for the whole experience, and then I set up a zone mix, and I had each of the like rooms or spaces that she traverses is like a new zone, and so it was very fast to mix because I had the control surface. And what I found was very interesting about
How
that.
were you logging the values?
So the way that I actually talk about this, if you go to the Electric Dreams behind the scenes audio live stream that we did,
Yeah.
Switch Tech, I actually talk about how I do this because I did the same thing for the live keynote address. So when they were playing the Electric Dreams demo live on stage, Paul Gorman, who was the audio director for that project, was actually controlling the mix. The
Oh
game
wow, that's
mix
cheating. That's cheating.
with the fader port live. Well, and the idea was that he could get stuff out of the way for the speaker, and then he could bring things in when they highlighted things. Like
Yeah,
they were
that's
talking
cool.
about meta
Yeah.
sounds. Then he could, that sort of.
hmm
And so,
Did you build just like a widget utility for that, or what'd you do?
what I did was I just created an actor blueprint actor that took in the MIDI device,
And you mapped
right.
everything.
and then I just mapped it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then the fader port. I think this is pretty common MIDI protocol for control surfaces. Is the faders are assigned to a pitch bend value for a channel. Because pitch bend in MIDI, like, because one of the big problems with MIDI, right, is that it's like a 2 bytes of data or something. It's like you've got
Yeah.
0 to 127
It's
values.
graduate, yeah.
But with pitch bend, what you have is actually 2 of those. and so you get something like
A broader
56,000
range.
values.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you get a lot more granularity. So all of the MIDI protocol for control surfaces typically assigns a pitch bend to each fader, and it's just you have 0 through 8 channels or 0 through 16 channels or whatever the setup is, and then the fader port had a bunch of buttons which are just like node on events,
Yeah.
and so I mapped the like play button or something, this like big brown button. I mapped it to cache profile. So in audio modulation, and if you want, I could share the screen and we could take a look at this. But in audio modulation, there's an option to save profiles
Yeah.
by enumeration, and what that does is it saves the values to a configuration file
That you can
And-
recall.
that you can recall. Yeah.
I've never used that. I'd definitely like to see that.
So for live mixing, that's a really valuable approach because you can adjust values and then cache those as a profile. And if you wanted to use a control surface, you could map maybe some series of buttons to different profile enumerations, and then you can sort of recall them and try them out. And then
So what's the difference then between the that profile and a control bus mix?
Well, it's just like an A/B of a control bus mix.
Okay, so you can flip flop back and forth.
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
just by like an integer index value, so you
Okay.
can have a whole bunch of them if you want.
Oh, gotcha.
And then what you can do is, in the case of like if you're working on a project that you're going to ship, what you can do is you can either save those profiles if you want and recall them in the game while it's running, or because that's the sort of live mix thing. That's what I was talking about. We were like being able to live mix on stage, or you can go into the control bus mix asset, recall the value, and then save the asset, and then it'll just have that value.
Oh,
Why don't
okay.
you show us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want, I could load that up here.
I'd love to see that. I think that's one of those hidden gems that most people don't know about. I personally have never used, and it's kind of one of those things that after you start using it, you're like, wow, how did I get by without using this?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the PCG demo. I upgraded this to 5.7, so we'll see.
Was this a soundscape thing you were doing?
Yeah, this was the soundscape thing that I did the other day.
See, Eric, I watched them.
So
How did you miss our tea sponsor then?
Oh,
I
yeah,
forgot
the
to-
sponsor.
I didn't
Yeah,
sponsor
the- Yeah, because we talked about them sending
is-
a bunch to your house because you said that.
Well, I don't. Yeah. So here's the thing.
I mean, whatever, right?
Okay, so hi friends. Tea is one of the world's oldest
Do you love
drinks. People looked at water and said that's not good enough. And all over the world, the word tea means tea in most cultures, which is amazing. Tea is universal. And when I want tea, I buy my tea from Perennial Tea Room.
Are you doing a read?
The Perennial Tea Room. I'm just coming up with on the spot here. Perennial Tea Room, located in downtown Seattle near Pike's Place in Post Alley. It's my very favorite tea shop. Actually, it's something whenever I move to a new place, I look for
That's great.
a loose leaf tea place to like source from, because I like to buy local.
You just did an awesome read, man. That was incredible.
Wars have been fought.
We
over
are.
tea.
I want to make this very clear. We are not. This is not a paid endorsement. They don't know I'm doing this, and that's how we're gonna keep it.
You'll be hearing from their lawyers, I'm sure.
Well, this is actually a thing on YouTube. Like they say it is. Does it contain a paid endorsement? And it's
Oh,
like,
you
no,
only have to
doesn't.
say it if it is paid, though. You don't
It's
have
not
to say it if
paid.
it's not
That's what I'm
paid.
trying to tell people.
Yeah.
Believe me.
I've actually gotten things sent to me from my YouTube channel.
From the Perennial Tea Room.
Not from the tea room, but I am open to that. From some companies that have sent me some gear to test out and stuff. So I'm like,
Ah.
oh yeah.
That's
So-
where all the guitars came from.
No, those I've.
That's a Zoom
yeah.
background.
That's yeah.
That's
That
the super-
fake. Yeah, I'm just in like a white closet.
Cool. Yeah. Right. Where was I?
You're gonna show us this profiling stuff.
Oh yeah. So okay, let's see. Did I even actually? Oh, I do have something. What is in here? I don't know what I did this for. Anyway, so I'll just. You know what? I'll just do it like a clean. We'll just do like a clean folder here. Quick demo. Okay, so let's say you have modulation. That always gets me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Here's CBM, my mix,
Designer.
and then
I mean, another thing you can do instead of hunting through menus is just type the name of the asset that you want.
what are you talking about?
Oh, there's a pro tip from Eric.
I mean,
love-
I
I
admit
love
that I
Quick Tip.
typically don't type the name of the asset that I want, but you totally can. Like,
What are you talking? What are you
right
talking
click
about?
to start typing.
Oh, up here.
Like, yeah, it should just you just right click and start typing what you want.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
There
All
you
right.
go. Save you
That'll
some
save
digging
me
through menus.
I
hours.
don't know if I maybe.
That'll save me hours over the
Probably
course
did
of
it at some
27
point.
months. Ship cycle.
Where did it go? Where is it? Where is this window? Where is it? Where is it? Behind here? Sorry, I have
Other
two
screen? Do you have
monitors.
another screen?
Okay.
Oh, that's weird. One of the tools I use the most is the default layout view tab. When you can go and reset it to the default layout, I find myself having to do that all the time.
Okay, there's that.
While he's doing that, do you love tea?
That's right.
It's not like docked on the side of your editor, is it?
It looks like it is, doesn't it?
What?
I mean, that's all like level editor stuff, but
You just got your windows all in a bunch.
These are content browsers.
You like got your content browser to your left instead of under in the bottom, right?
Maximize. Ah! It was on the other screen and it was
Yep, there it
minimized
was.
in some corner.
Sneaky.
It was sneaky.
Create a
Okay.
create a Jira.
Clean up workspace. Damn.
Yep.
Assign to self.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're
so,
making a control bus mix with those control buses.
Yeah, yeah. And they're defaulting to... Yeah, good. This is a new thing. By the way, now these default to volume.
Oh, I thought they did already.
Well, I don't know. At some point, they didn't.
just
Beforehand, they didn't, and now they do.
Oh, I feel like they always default to volume.
Maybe that's been a while. I don't know. It's hard when you've been here since the beginning.
Oh man, you got things all floating in your head.
That's right. Okay, so let's say we want to go negative 18 dB and negative 12 dB, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll save that. So what we can do is we can go.
So you just made a
save-
mix, what I call a scene, basically, like a mixing board scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I'll save mix to profile.
So you're saving. What exactly is that doing? Like when you save mix to profile?
It's taking the values here and it's caching them into a configuration file.
Within that control bus mix.
Well, there's a configuration file for the project, and this control bus mix these values and this name and index are cached inside that configuration file.
Gotcha.
And the profile index is this value here, so I can say 1.
Oh, okay.
And then let's
So
say
you're
I want
telling
this
it where
one
to save
be,
it?
Let's say negative 32, and then let's say negative 3, right? Now if I save that mix to profile, boop,
Now you have
it's
two of them.
now I have two profiles that have been saved. And now I can just change this value. Let's say if I want 0 again, I load mix from profile and it's back. See?
Nice. Can you do that in a blueprint?
Yes. Yeah, so if we look at let's grab like just a blueprint actor here real quick.
Man, that's cool. I've never messed with that, and that's pretty awesome.
I think I can just find the function here.
Profile, yep.
Save to profile, and
you want to load, right?
And load to profile.
Gotcha. Okay.
From profile. And so what
So the load's pulling in an array, or what's it doing there?
It's pulling in the stages. So
Okay.
it's the actual values.
Got you. Of each one, of each control bus.
Yeah, so each one of these is a mixed stage.
Okay.
And so that it includes a bus reference, a value, an attack, and a release time. So if we look
I got a question for you. You may know this, you or Eric might know this. Why are they called mixed stages? Like that's one of those terms that if you're coming from the world of, analog or DAW mixing, that's a word you've never heard.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So there was a time. Okay, here. Okay, let me hold on a second. You gotta see my address. So in the early days of the audio engine, there were not a lot of programmers. In fact, it started with Aaron. Aaron will talk about this if you've asked him to tell the story. Aaron was the first programmer that Epic had ever hired.
For audio?
For audio. The first audio programmer Epic had ever hired.
Wow.
At least as a full-timer. I think they may have had contractors from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of audio programming was done by people who did not want to do audio programming or did not think much of audio programming. And that's how Unreal got its sort of reputation in the audio domain, really early on. And
audio designed by non-audio people.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was audio, like the feature requests were coming from sound designers.
Yeah.
But the thing about feature requests is that sound designers they're looking at problems differently than the architecture. And so sometimes just satisfying those needs or just rejecting requests, sort of puts sound designers in like a really hard spot. And so early on, there was a limited amount of pre-design that happened. So like I was involved with a lot of feature development, and I would say what we need, and Aaron would put his 2 cents in, and then the programmer would sort of do the thing. And sometimes there was time for iteration, sometimes there wasn't. Sometimes the features were developed around these sort of crunch periods and special projects, and sometimes we had so for audio modulation as an example, I had a ton of feedback. So the audio modulation released twice. We had 425 version that came out, and that I had a ton of feedback based on that. And 426 had it basically broke all of audio modulation, right? And that's once you get to that stage, once something gets used and it's in a sample project, it gets really hard to change it fundamentally.
Yeah.
Naming things is one of the hardest things, and so some of the names that you'll see were sort of determined on the fly by the programmer based on their perspective of the process and how things went, and that doesn't always communicate nicely.
Yeah,
that's just the case. And it's something that we're trying to turn around a little bit in terms of we've got a lot more resources now. We've got a really great team. We've got a lot of programmers, relatively speaking, at least from what we had before, not necessarily compared to other domains or divisions and departments in Epic.
Sure.
But so now we have a much more sort of broader buy-in process. We spend a lot more time sort of doing the pre-production, sort of determining what the thing has to be. So,
Mhm.
but it's it is a sort of culture shift. It's a different kind of way of going about developing features. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the word stage could almost be replaced by the word channel. Because if you're
Yeah.
thinking of a DAW, you're like, that would be a channel, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas stage almost, you think of gain staging, or you think of, something that's happening later, a different stage.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I was just curious. That's a good
yeah,
answer.
it's a good question. But yeah, so that's and it is kind of a game stage in a way. But yeah, and there's lots of things that I would like to change about audio modulation that it's like almost hard to do it now at this stage.
Yeah, it's a beast now. It's a wild beast that you've created.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. It's incredible.
It is very powerful. I think one of the other challenges that we run into a lot, especially in audio, is that we have all these words and terms in audio that are overutilized.
Yes.
Channel,
Bus. Yeah.
spatialization, attenuation,
Mm-hmm.
and we have these sort of from the before days when we didn't have audio programmer proper working on these, like it was very unclear the boundaries of those things and when you were invoking one or the other based on the actual name of the thing. And you also had really crazy things like you remember the audio ambient zones where it's like from the inside, from the outside, from the inside, outside from the
Oh
outside,
my
outside,
gosh,
right?
dude.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like what the
Bro.
heck is that?
Dude,
Like,
dude, I'm working on some stuff now with gameplay volumes, and we've got all these gameplay tags and stuff, and it's like, all right, what happens when you walk in, but then you walk out, but the place you walk into is similar to the place you just walked out of. You want to add on remove and remove on enter, and then you remove on exit, but add on exit. And so there's all of these, like, it's like the Inception.
yeah, volume and nesting volumes, it gets really complicated. So anyway, so yeah, that's my sort of explanation and the feature.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
And what I think is important here is this would need to be loaded in. So you've got these stages. So you probably need to do something like.
So you pick the control bus mix you want to load the profile into, and then you pick the profile you want to load. How is there a place you can look at the profile values? Like, how do you remember which profile you want?
Yeah, the only way to look at those is actually in the editing tool right now.
To call it up and see what they are.
Load it up.
Yeah, see, I guess that's probably a little challenging because you're like, which profile am I? I mean,
yeah.
It'd be cool if they had strings instead of, some sort of string conversion to where you could name them, right?
Or like a box you can drop down box and name it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to go, okay, do I want profile 4 or profile 7?
Yeah.
You're like, oh gosh, I'll have to look at those again.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. The profile system was specifically designed so that we could have 2 mixes, one for the stage, one for the floor demo. That's how it came to be. So the existence.
So
of
just
this
minimal,
feature, 1
or 2.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is the existence of this feature was completely driven by a special project's specific requirements,
and it just stuck.
And it just exactly.
Yeah.
It just stuck. And we didn't even get to use it because that was March of 2020.
Okay. So if you were going to go deep into this, I'm thinking I make an enum for my mixes, I name them, and then I use the enum switch, right? Or I pull off the enum, because an enum is just a series of indexes, right? So you could technically, if you wanted to use 5 or 6 or 10 profiles,
Right.
you could create an enum with descriptors.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is what I would not recommend using this in a actual project. What I
So
would recommend.
scratch the last 30 minutes.
What? No, 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 no. What I'm saying is I would not use this to manage mixes
Gotcha.
in a game.
Okay, I
What
see
I
what
would use this for is for authoring mixes
for ABing and
locally.
stuff. Yeah, like gotcha.
So in other words, that's where I get down to like in my example with like the fader port, I'm managing these mixes. I'm caching these profiles right
Yeah,
on the fly
gotcha.
so that I can try out different versions of the
Yeah,
mix. And
yeah.
that's one of the things that I found
And
really
then
satisfying with
and then
having a
revert
control.
back if you liked one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I really liked about mixing with a control surface personally was how quickly you arrive at different moods. Like I got like an
yeah,
ambient mix really fast, and then I got to like a very like character forward mix really fast, and then I got to,
yeah,
music strong kind of mix. And there's all different kinds of ways that you can sort of mix, and that is sort of the aesthetic part of it. And you kind of fly when you get the
yeah,
tools set
yeah.
up for you, right?
I think tactile experiences are very underrated, right? And I think that's why people like hardware gear. I think that's why people like hardware synths and hardware compressors is because when you use your fingers in your hands, you there's a different connection there.
Definitely. There's absolutely. I totally agree. And also you have many fingers and you can control many
Yeah,
faders at once, and they can do independent movement. And so, with mix, it's very real. Everything is about the relationship between the sounds in a mix, right? And
yeah,
so the relationship, is very difficult if you're adjusting a value one at a time with a mouse and like a keypad or something like that,
yeah,
to sort of understand the relationship and how each one affects each other. Whereas if you can just sort of bring everything down to like a mid volume, and then you're sort of raising some things up and raising other things down at the same time, you can just start to feel
yeah,
out the balance. Again, I agree with you that there is a sort of special experience when your eyes are sort of maybe dropping down to the gear, or you're not, you're using your ears more, you're not
yeah.
trying to dial in like -6, -18. You're just like, I'm gonna bring this fader
Yeah.
down a little touch,
Little
and then
softer, little
yeah,
louder. Yeah.
exactly. So
So
I think there's a lot of value in that.
let me ask you a question, Dan Reynolds. You're mixing a game, right? You're starting your mix. You're sitting down in your studio to start your mix journey. How do you calibrate your levels so that when you're done, your game is appropriately loud, but has appropriate dynamic range, and meaning, from your footsteps, from your soft footsteps to your ambient wind to your buildings exploding? How do you kind of root yourself sonically into that experience, technically, as far as how you're adjusting and set? What's your target? How do you go about that? Because I think that's a big topic, right?
Yeah, that's sort of methodology, I think, is kind of what you're getting at, maybe.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before, and it'd be interesting to hear both of your sort of the way that you would approach mixing. What I like to do first is I like to start with my air or room tone,
Mhm.
because first of all, I am trying to remove digital silence as much as possible. Digital
Yeah.
silence is always weird
Sounds
sounding.
fake. Yeah.
And you can use it effectively, but you have to use it deliberately. It has to be
Mhm.
something that's not because you forgot an asset, or whatever.
What happened to
Like,
soundscapes?
yeah, exactly. And so,
We got
so,
called.
so I like to start there, and also I consider that my noise floor,
So that's your
and
lowest.
that's my
That's the
lowest.
lowest thing you're gonna hear.
That's the lowest.
And
Yeah.
what do you put that at in your, like, dB wise? What are you hearing? Like, if you're using speakers in your studio, how loud is that? If you calibrated like a sine wave, like, are you looking at like -25, -35?
I don't have a calibrated studio to work in. So
But you're calibrating your ears right to the
yeah,
reference.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So
mean,
you
it's
just get it to where you're comfortable.
uh, what I try, yeah. So here's the thing: is all the special projects mixes I'd never had a calibrated space, and in those situations, I think what's challenging is that your volume, your like your speaker volume affects your perception of
Yes.
dynamic range.
How loud it is, yeah.
Yeah, and so and then there's all sorts of weird stuff that happens, like you go to lunch and you come back and there's
Yeah,
all this
your
salt,
fatigue. Right,
your
yeah.
like blood pressure's up and your
Yep.
ears are like less delicate and all it's it can really affect. So I have what I try to do is explore different um volume levels, kind of like you would other speakers or other listening environments.
Mhm.
If I because I don't have that calibration. Um, I think if you're gonna, a lot of my mixing has been done, in these special projects being very like chaotic, crunchy things that happen, and the final mix actually happens at the stage. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like so that's yeah. Let's see. Yeah,
I mean, you're
Ed
mixing as you're
mentioned.
going, right? You mix as you go, and then you polish it.
Well, okay, so yeah, okay, so my recommendations isn't always how this works out, but again, I try to start with my noise floor. I want that to be low. I try to shoot for a I try to shoot for like the standard, the 1770 ITU standard, which is like negative 23 LUFS
Yeah.
with your like but what has always happened in these special project situations is invariably the director's like, I want it louder, and
Oh,
then
always.
and so then I end up settling at like negative 16 for the whole presentation.
For
But
peak or for
like the Valley of the Ancient demo is a great example, right? So I originally mixed that demo for negative 23, and then the executive who was in the listening theater was like, I want it louder, and it's like you could
yeah.
turn it up, but they're
Yeah.
not going to. That's
Right.
like it's complicated. Like they have to go around in a
Yeah.
room or whatever because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah.
theater, and so that becomes the calibrated room, right? Then it's like they're not happy until it's about negative 16. That's
Yeah.
usually how the experience. I did the same thing with the
Your
Matrix
loudest
versions.
sound or your softest sound?
No, I'm talking about the whole full experience.
Oh, you're talking
So
about the average. Yeah, the
yeah,
LUFS average.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Long-term LUFS.
Yeah. FS full scale is usually
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and the way that I
And I
have
think like YouTube is like negative 14, right? Like something like that.
web tends to be around that
Yeah.
area, negative 14,
Little
negative
hotter.
14.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
right.
little
Yeah.
hotter. Yeah. So and that's part of it too. Like if you're
Yeah.
creating something that's going to go out,
Yeah.
especially at a platform that might adjust, like I think YouTube adjusts the dynamic range
Yeah.
on, like without you
Yeah.
doing anything. So, but I always shoot for that. When you're starting out, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't
Right.
because the dynamic range presentation is the whole experience, and it's like if you just
Right.
got one element, this is sort of
Yeah,
like
for a
where
19-hour game.
yeah. So this is where I'm at odds with
Yeah.
like using loudness to
Yeah, it's impossible
manage
almost. Dude,
assets
right.
on
Yeah.
input. And it's a we can I think it's very contentious because there you want consistency, and how do you control the consistency of
Yeah.
assets when they come into the project?
Yeah.
You're working with a lot of contractors, or you're working with a lot of different people, and so the
Yeah.
loudness of the material that's coming into the game can kind of get a little all over the place. So you do need some kind of validation, some kind of like yardstick for the different types of sounds, but it is
Yeah.
not like the loudness is not as useful on the input as it is on the output, and the when things combine is when you get the actual loudness. That's where
Yeah.
but
Well, I think
there
a
is
couple people ask in the chat about like metering tools, right? And from a technical perspective, dude, when Audio Insights got added, I was like a kid in a candy store because that's like a game changer to be able to monitor like the sub mixes and stuff. So I think a few people have asked like, are there profiling tools? Are there meters?
So if you go to Tools and Audio Insights, and then find the window,
and you have to start it before pi, right? You have to like start it before the
hold on,
pi.
let me find this one down. Here we go. There we go.
Can you make it big as well?
Maximize. There it is. I don't know what happened with the. You know what it is I have a second monitor over here, and I just changed the connection. I was using a USB-C connection, and then I switched over to HDMI. Anyway, you should be excited about Audio Insights because
it's a life changer.
There's some new stuff in 5.7.
Oh yeah, tell us more.
Look at this. So here's the
enlarge it.
Yeah, make that sucker big.
Well, hold on. Let me just sort of get rid of.
Man's like, hold on, I'm drinking tea. Hold on.
Maybe you know what I'll do is I'll run it while I'm running the thing in the background, right? We can have this. We have some sound here. We got some context. Okay.
Ooh, little spectrogram. Look at that.
Yeah. So if you go up to this little menu up here, you've got different, including loudness, short-term, and momentary.
Well, look at that.
Does
that run? Does that average for the whole session?
We have short-term. I think is like 10 seconds. I forget the numbers. I forget the times. But integrated up at the top is the
average since the session started.
Since the session started.
Nice.
So you can see here.
Is that all UFS?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can see this is really quiet.
Yeah.
Right.
That's damn.
So this is where I would start.
Because
here's the thing is I would start.
Crickets.
Yeah, exactly. And I would start low.
Where are you at now? I can't see that meter. Where's that? Like -25, -30?
Can you put it on the full screen?
Oh, sorry.
Come on, man.
There we go. Now
I do that. I forget to do that sometimes.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you're running. Your noise is coming in around -40. Right.
Yeah.
That's low. That's great.
Yeah. So here's the thing with dynamic range. In my opinion, it's easier to reduce things than to
for sure.
gain things.
Make
right?
things louder.
Yeah, making things louder, usually bringing up the noise floor of your content, all this sort of stuff. And so,
do you normalize your assets, Dan?
What if I normalize? I will normalize the group, right? So again, like if I've got like 20 footsteps or something like that, then I want all those footsteps to be balanced together, so I can control them with a single value, and I know that group will work together. And so this is where we're getting back to the stages. I was talking about. I started with the stages. So the sources. Now I want to manage the volume of the sources, and I want to manage the volume of the sources in groups. I don't want to have to manage individual sources if I can avoid it because it's very finicky. And so I want them to all be balanced with each other out of the box when I'm playing them in the engines. That's why I like balancing in the DAW if I can. So if I was going to normalize, then I'd normalize as a group so that they maintain a balance with each other. Right? With that said, it's because it's easier to reduce volume than to add gain. You kind of also want the sounds to come in at their potential loudest, however, right? So like you wouldn't want it to play it louder than this
limit, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you want to, and this is another sort of thing to think about with Unreal, is whatever right now, because of legacy reasons, I'm sort of caveating this because it's not always going to be the case. When you import audio into Unreal, it gets converted to 16-bit PCM and is saved as a uncompressed wave data. And so what's important is 16-bit. 16-bit, right, is your 96 dB dynamic range. It's your CD dynamic range, right? Your CD listening, your music CD, right? And so
CDs,
your
man.
red book CD,
yesterday.
right?
Yeah.
And so
which is plenty.
It's plenty, but it's a lot of people are running in 20. They've got their DAWs in 24-bit. They're
I always run 2448. Everything's 2448, but it gets downstreamed, right, to 4416.
Well, the sample rate could be almost any reasonable sample rate is supported in Unreal.
Gotcha. So it keeps it what you put it in?
A lot of codecs will only support certain sample rates. So like the most common is like 48K. So it's, if you don't want it to get resampled, that it's usually 48K is better to bring it in.
That's always bring everything 48.
Yeah. And that'll just sort of reduce the amount of resampling that happens. But
are you legit running all individual crickets?
I'm running individual crickets, and I'm running.
Oh my gosh, you are insane!
I'm running a cricket bed as well.
Okay. Wow.
But I have But the way that I have this, so this is the way that I have this set up is that there's only an air as a floor, and then the cricket ambience.
Those are all spawning with soundscapes.
It's all spawned. Everything.
They're all around. Can you add an attenuation debug?
To the.
So we can see where the sounds are coming from.
I mean, I can. Hold on a second.
They're popping up all over the place, right?
Do we have? Sorry, mate. Do we have just?
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah,
there it is. There it is. Yep. Okay. Yep, there they are. Popping up all over the place. Are you a 24 voice limit right now?
No, that's not even the default. The default is like 32, but
I thought it was 24.
But for like the Matrix Awakens, I did 64.
Did that cause any problems?
No.
Really?
Not on. Well, the Matrix Awakens shipped on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X.
And those all handled 64 fine?
For the Series S, did I drop it? I don't remember if I dropped it for the Series S, because that's sort of the lower tier version. But they handle it fine.
Okay.
And I had the way that I budgeted the sandbox is actually 30 voices for NPC cars, because there were so many freaking cars in that demo.
Wow. Okay.
34
and then
voices for crickets.
The Switch is the most limited, right? They have like 12 or something.
Well, actually, Eric,
20.
You would
20?
know what? Yeah, is it 20? Is that?
That's not bad. So 20 is the minimum then, I guess.
Yeah. So this, I mean, so this is Soundscape. For anyone who doesn't know, Soundscape is just a scattering tool. It allows you to define spawning behavior for sounds, to just play automatically when you set states. Something happened.
It's a fantastic tool.
Thank you.
We're using it in our game too. It's
really?
Yeah, it's such a man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's great.
That's exciting. I'd like to hear about your experiences using it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's fantastic. I get concerned with the voices, right? Because right now you're just playing soundscapes and you're using 20 voices. So there's that. That scares me a little.
This is a design decision, right? This all comes down to budget. It all comes right. So like if I am, this is a ambient demo, and what I'm looking for is 3D depth,
realism, right? Yeah.
So So this is what I was talking about. See here, we've got the cricket bed. We actually have multiple cricket beds that are spatialized, and that's how I get a direction. Yeah. That's how I'm outside of the forest, and you can hear the crickets inside the forest on the left or on the right over here like that. And so, that's what that that is more like it's a little more expensive. You want to create those kinds of ambient. Yeah.
Well, and it goes back to our original conversation. Like if you decide, listen, this is about this, right? Like this is about this thing. So we're going to use and allocate the tools and the technologies to accommodate that. Whereas if you're, if it's Call of Duty, you don't need 78 crickets, right? You need one cricket and big explosions.
Well, hold on here, because what we can apply, this is what I was getting at originally, is this idea of significance. Now in Unreal, there's a parameter called priority, which is pretty similar.
Yeah.
And it has some dynamic value, And so I can, I can look at this ambient composition. I've got a bunch of these little one shots happening, crickets and
Hmm.
birds and stuff. And I can prioritize the beds and I can deprioritize the one shots, especially the near stuff. And so that if I start shooting a gun, obviously those are not important,
They
right?
take the back burner. Yeah, they get
Yeah,
cold.
exactly.
Yeah,
And so this is it's not a as long as you using your voice count is not a problem as long as that you
yeah,
have the resources for that.
yeah,
Your 20 voices on Switch or whatever. If
yeah.
you can run 20 voices and it's fine at the same time, then that's great. And then that's not about how many you've got for the thing. It's about making sure that the voices are well prioritized so
And
that
concurrencies too, right? Like making sure you're
yeah,
putting
exactly.
concurrencies.
Concurrency
Yeah,
might be one of those tools that you leverage.
like 5 crickets maximum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or it could be or it's how it could be take all of it. It could be 20 crickets, but it's like how do you decide how to steal a voice? How do you
yeah,
decide
yeah.
which voice takes priority over other voices?
Well, that's deep. That could be a song. How to steal a voice.
How to steal a voice.
Yeah,
And so when you play a gunshot, maybe you don't need to playing a crickets, maybe
yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe the bed is still important. Maybe you still
Sure.
want that,
Yeah, yeah,
and so there's but then when you stop shooting, you want those to come back, right? So
yeah.
so
It's
that's
almost like ducking. It's almost like side chaining
yeah,
in a
it's
way.
like
Yeah.
like that, but it's with the voices actually playing
With
or not playing.
concurrencies
Yeah.
and priorities. When you set your priorities, Dan, do you use 0 to 100? What scale do you use?
Yeah, I use 0 to 100. I use the
Okay.
full. So priority is weirdly capped at between 0 and 100, and it's a float value. And that's something that we have, like, when priority was first introduced, the audio team had they would do weird things. They'd be like, oh, I want 1.8, and then I want 1.75, and
Instead
like
of 18.
they start going in between,
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so you kind of like want to set those really early
Yeah.
on, these big broad
Yeah.
ranges, and then it's easier
Yeah.
to go in between. With
Do you put
sensible
your
values.
music at 100?
I put music. So there. So this is actually a good question. So if you go to sound classes, you'll see an option called Always Play.
Yeah.
And then also on
Is that like this one goes to 11?
yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what
It goes
that is.
to 99,999.
Yeah. So if we
We
look
are
at
not. The game's gonna crash before this sucker
That's
stops.
right. This is gonna bring it down. So if you look at the source properties on sound, this is a meta sound. Let me just make some space here.
You got your sound class in there.
Yeah. So if we go down to
Priority, yeah.
priority, you'll see bypass volume scale for priority. So basically, what this means is when you click this.
That overrides the concurrency setting, right?
No. So what it is at the very end of the okay. Let me see. Maybe I'll bring up a slide. Where are we on time? We're good on time. So in Unreal, you have. I'm bringing up a slide deck because I've actually I've talked about.
You did a talk on this?
Well, yeah, I have. I've been working on a slide deck for a really long time on
Nice.
on some of this stuff, and so
This is deep stuff, man. This is cool.
okay. So let me just
Audio thread.
slideshow. Here we go. So there are 3 threads. There's the game thread. There's the audio thread, and there's the audio render thread. The game thread and the audio thread are basically work in parallel, and they're locked to each other. So if the audio thread goes overboard, then the game thread gets slowed down. If the game thread goes overboard, the audio thread gets slowed down. The audio render thread is asynchronous from both of those. The audio render thread updates on your sample buffer frequency. So if your sample rate's 48, K and your buffer size is 1,000 uh, samples, then it's 480 uh, times a second that it updates, or no, 48 times a second. Sorry, that's
There was a zero.
There was a zero,
Often
yeah.
there, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so what the audio thread is for determining the candidacy of a sound. So when you try to play a sound, or a sound is already playing, the audio thread is deciding whether or not to continue playing, or to play a sound, or to stop a sound. And so um, the way that it works is it starts with evaluating sound concurrency.
Okay.
All of the sound concurrency rules are evaluated except those dependent upon volume, because we haven't determined volume. And so it's just an easy way. If it's like oldest or newest or whatever the sort of rule is, if it can say, hey, we don't want to play the sound.
Furthest. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want to play the sound. We don't need to consider it anymore. We can take it out of the run.
Yeah. Don't even do the math. Yeah.
We don't need to do anything else about it. We know we can't play it. Then we create a list of candidate sources. So the sound concurrency actually happens before we create our sort of active sound list. And then we evaluate sound cue graphs. So this is, sound cues
Sound
still
cues.
exist. Sound cues. But like if you make a really huge sound cue graph, this is where that process happens. And you can actually slow down the game thread if you make some crazy sound cues.
Yeah.
And you've got a whole bunch of them playing. And so because sound cue graphs
wait, this is all happening on the game thread?
This is the audio thread.
Gotcha.
Audio thread. But it's parallel to the game thread.
Gotcha.
So if the audio thread takes two, because what happens is that the audio thread has references to Unreal U objects, Unreal objects, and so they need to pause the audio thread for garbage collection to happen, and garbage collection evaluated at the update rate. So the audio thread is basically concurrent with the game thread, but they limit each other. What happens is sound cues muck things up, because sound cues, you can do things like change the sound class, which could affect all sorts of things about the sound, its volume, its potentially its priority. You can have multiple sounds because sound cues they don't actually mix sounds together. They just pick a bunch of sound waves to play. And so you could have a sound cue that's basically managing multiple sound waves at once, right? And so you have this like sub object called wave instances, which is a pain in the butt for our audio programmers. And so sound cue graph is evaluated. And again, this is one of the things, emphasizing that mixing is not real in sound cues. And then what happens is we have our wave instance list. And that's where we start applying volume adjustments, right? Each of the wave, like a sound cue could have multiple waves and they have different volume values, right? And then all the other active sounds they're trying to play, your meta sounds, your sound waves, your procedural sounds, your synth components, they also have volume adjustments. And so this is where the logical volume adjustments are applied. And so then we reevaluate volume-related concurrency at this stage. So we're like, oh, if this is a quiet sound, then we can remove it from the running. But we didn't know that until we got to this point. And then what we do is we sort all of the sounds, and we multiply the volume by its priority. And that's how sounds are ranked. So if you've got a sound that has 1.0 volume and 1.0 priority, its full value ranking is 1.0. If you have a sound that's 1.0 volume and 0.5 or 50% priority, then its ranking becomes half. If they're both half, then it's like ranking is 25%, and so that's where a list is basically created. And that's how the global channel count determines which sounds play. So if you got your Switch 20 max sounds get to play, then the top 20 in this list play.
And that all happens in about 0.01 seconds.
Happens in one game frame. One game frame. So if
Crazy.
you're 60 hertz, then that's the frequency. If it's 30 or 24 hertz, then that's the frequency.
Dan,
and
you're
so-
like doing all these hand gestures and no one can
Oh
see
yeah,
them.
sorry, no one's seeing the hand gestures. Yeah,
They're
I don't know how
amazing.
important they are, but
Yeah.
like I just wanted to tell the audience.
very descriptive. Everyone
He
use
talks with his hands.
Everyone use your imaginations. And so then the winners become sound sources, earnest, or maybe a sound source that's rendering right now needs to be stopped, or and so forth. So that's how priority plays into things. I forgot.
It's amazing how much work the engine does for us, right? Like it's mind blowing.
It tries to be very logical. You know, like volume is like, the assumption there is that if a sound is very quiet and then it's less important. But that's not the case necessarily with like music. We might do fades or do weird things with our mix. We still want it to sit there, and that's where priority tries to counteract that. And then you can sort of remove volume from the with that bool that I mentioned before. The bypass volume scale for priority weighting that removes volume from and just uses the priority value instead of the volume. We have priority as an attenuation feature now. You can make sounds more or less important based on how far away you are, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And and so and then the always play, I think it does something wacky, like it puts the priority like in thousands or something.
You talking about the sound class Boolean you just showed?
Yeah,
gotcha.
Play. Yeah, I forget exactly what it does, but it does something really crazy. Like it
gives it like a VIP treatment,
like 10,000 for the priority.
Yeah,
I think it's 99,999.
Okay, yeah,
that's funny.
You can see it in the. In
there's
the
just that
view.
one extra. There's just that one extra.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Why don't you just make that the loudest?
Yeah. Why don't we just make that one the loudest? Why don't we just make that one 10?
Yeah. So okay. So then after your source management, then you have submixing, right? And that's where you start doing destructive summing of your sounds, and you're starting to treat them and process them as groups.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes to submixes. We talked about this. We're a lot of people are like confused about what a sound class is, what a control bus does, what a submix is.
Yeah, they were very confused.
And so it goes sources, and then the sources go into your submix. And actually, this is actually on this slide deck. I can go up to my source render. Here's the source signal chain. Starts with the.
It's too small.
Again, it was too small. Okay. Actually, let me drop it down because we're talking about mixing. So I want to talk about how mixing plays in with that render chain. So go down here. So here's the gain staging diagram that is useful. And where do we go to the slide? Where is the? Oh, here we go. So it starts with your source render, your sound wave, your meta sound, or your source bus. Obviously, meta sound can be very complicated, right? Because you can do all kinds of crazy volume control and management there. And the mix engine, the audio mixer, is rendering in 32-bit float. So even though the sound waves have been saved to 16-bit, the mix is actually 32-bit float. So you have an insane amount of headroom. You have like 1500 dB of like space, which is insane, right? And so you can get very loud or very quiet, amplitude values coming in. Then we have source volume, and this is like if you're looking at channel strip, this would be like the input gain, right? And so that's what the sound class volume is setting that. The source property, the volume property on the source itself is setting that. And the audio component, volume level is also setting that. So those affect the source volume. And it's really important to understand this. The source volume is going to apply before the source effect chain. So if you've got a compressor on the source as a source effect, then the source volume is going to affect how it hits that
How it hits the
compressor.
compressor, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I
Which
sort of
makes sense.
it makes sense. Yeah, that's
It's
why
gain
you try
staging,
to think
right?
of it as
Yeah.
like input gain.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then you have the pre-effect send, which you could send to an audio bus as an example, and then the source effect chain. And so that is obviously where you can do some dynamic management of the source, uh, and then uh, and then you have another gain stage at the end of that, which is you could think of like the fader right at the bottom of your channel strip, and this is where distance attenuation is applied. This is where control bus volume is applied.
So it's
Parameter,
basically taking the final what it should be and then applying the physics.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, or the fader, right? Because this is the
Yeah.
thing is this is an important distinction. The control bus is like a fader automation,
Yes. Yeah.
not an input gain automation.
No, it's just a fader. Yep.
It's fader,
like
so it's after the
DCA, yeah.
effects. It's after that, and then you have a post effect send, which is post fader. Occlusion also is applied at this stage, is the distance attenuation.
Which is
occlusion,
basically
sorry.
like an EQ based on what's in front of it.
Yeah, well, remember our
Yeah.
simple occlusion has both volume ducking and
Yeah.
filter application, right?
Yeah.
So then you have the post effect send, which also you can send to audio buses, and then this goes to the source. Then we go to the submix send stage, right? And the submix send stage has like a submix, its normal destination submix, but then
So it
can
does
list a whole
all of
list.
that and then sends it to the submix.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
And this stage, it could go directly to the submix, or it could go through a spatialization process, right?
Like
Which-
Atmos or something like that.
it could just be panning.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It could just be panning. And so what happens is at this stage, the source is up mixed or down mixed to the submix channel configuration. Based on so for example, if you had a mono source, it's one channel all the way
Yeah.
through until it gets to this
Yep.
this part, and then if it's in a surround, maybe you're a surround setup, then it could be upmixing to 6 channels or 5 channels or something like
And
that.
then it hits the hardware.
Well, and then it goes to the submix graph, and the submix graph is just a sort of tributary sort of river flow. You can think of like river deltas flowing to a single outlet to your hardware. So all your submixes, we call them parent and child, but each of the child ones sort of like stream to the parent and the parent and the parent and the parent.
It's a summation.
Yeah, exactly. And then each one of those is a summing space. and submixes have pretty simple rendering. Actually, we'll do this real quick. So here's sort of like a really, this is the modulation. Sorry.
Good old audio modulation.
This by the way, this presentation took me like a year to make.
That's because you have a job.
It's true. It's true. So, here we go. It's chapter 3. There are chapters. Yeah, here we go. Submixes. Here we go. So what happens is you take all of the sources and child submixes, they sum together, then we go through the submix effects, and we have a dry bypass. So you can do parallel processing if you want.
Yeah.
And then those get fed to they're processed by the submix volumes. Another gain stage. It's another gain stage. So you have a wet and dry volume control, and then those go to the parent submix all the way down to the output. So this submixing is the next sort of stage after the source render, and then you can kind of think of the very end is like your mastering stage. And mastering, for people who aren't familiar, is the process where you actually prepare a track to go to a specific media. So
Yeah.
so for example, if you're mastering for, vinyl or CD or
Vinyl,
tape,
baby. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going to have a different process.
Yeah.
You're going to start with the same mix, and then you're going to do a
Yeah.
mastering that's going to be different. It's going to be targeting those particular media. It's a little bit, now we have digital distribution, and then things get a little
Sure. Yeah. Everything's MP3 or a wave. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
My uncle, a lot of people don't know this. My uncle is like a big time Grammy Award winning mastering engineer, and he started in the 70s. And so their biggest thing was mastering audio to burn to a lathe to make vinyl.
Yeah.
And there were all of these technical issues having to do that because vinyl could only handle certain dynamic range.
yes.
And so it's like that, we've gone from that to
And
ozone 11.
Yeah.
like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and frequencies, right? Because what you would get is if you've got really loud sub bass sounds in a vinyl,
yeah,
you
it would
get
jack
needle,
it. Yeah.
needle skipping.
Yep. Yeah, it couldn't handle it. Literally cutting mountains inside the vinyl. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And this is where I would assert, it's not always the case, people do this. I would assert that you could change the final processing stage based on your platform. So, so that you could be like, oh, this is the Android mix because we know people.
Yeah.
Or you could have a different version if it's like a headphone setting or like a speaker
People are
setting.
going to be listening to this on their iPhone. Yeah,
Right.
It's like massive difference.
Yeah, exactly. Or like we talk about this a lot because the negative 23, is very dynamic. So, like, it's blow your head off dynamic if you're like if you're listening to it and it's like very quiet and then there's an explosion. Depending on your program length, in a traditional film situation, television situation, depending on your program length, you could have a lot of fluctuation there, right? And so it's not always appropriate. I think different game types and moods could use different dynamic ranges, right? For example, if you're playing something like very cinematic like Red Dead, then you do want that huge dynamic range. But if you're playing something like Mario Party, then you want actually a very compressed output.
Yeah, super tight. Yeah,
because you know that people need to have conversations over the program. Right? That they need to be able to talk and discuss, and that you want everything to be audible but not disruptive to that experience. And so that you kind of have to decide both what's the listening conditions of this based on the platform, the game type, and all that sort of stuff. And that's why I think hard and fast rules don't really necessarily work all the time.
Never. Every project's different, right? And it's really a deep philosophical point that you bring up, is that like every single thing is, what's the situation here? What is happening here? What is the end result? And it is about the experience, right? What is the experience of the person playing it? And that informs every decision we make. It's not about us or what we want it to sound like or what we think should be the loudest thing. It's about what is going to take this story and hit a home run, take it over the finish line.
Yeah. Cool. Man, I talked a lot this time.
Well, I mean, you know a lot, so.
Damn it.
Well, you also talked about how all these projects you worked on were terrible, Dan. So, like,
it was. Look, I don't think it's not obvious when you like.
You're your own worst critic.
Well, so the special projects team do amazing things in a very short amount of time, and it's very challenging to keep up with that. A lot. They're very passionate, and so. Like I have been in situations where December I'm like hearing about, like it says something like a GDC demo, right? In December I start hearing about it. I know they're sort of doing some pre-production. They're coalescing the demonstration. And I go on to like, I go maybe to holiday break, and I think to myself, this is never gonna. There's no way you can get this in 3 months at this stage. No, and then I come back from break, and they've got like a huge breakthrough, and suddenly it's like, oh, we're on.
You have
and,
2 weeks, baby.
We gotta go,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't even have enough. Like, we need to get contractors for
Yeah.
this. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And being a water, there's undeniably, you could throw as much agile as you want, but audio still has to waterfall after a bunch of things. And
Oh yeah,
there's only so much you can do in parallel. And so, and those are the kinds of things where, Epic is known for its graphics. It always needs to make sure that's the sort of top-notch part of the presentation. And so it can be very, like, for example, I'll give you an example. The Valley of the Ancient project.
Mm-hmm.
We were coming up on the deadline. It was a Tuesday. On Thursday, I saw in a Slack channel that someone had changed the robot's head effects. So it was
after you did the sound.
Yeah, originally, yes, because we had that outsourced. So someone did we had the cinematics outsourced.
Oh.
And so the like original, when you shot the golem, originally the like dome exploded, and the lava came out, and so it was like fire and goop, And then I saw in a the Slack channel, because you lurk in the Slack channels because they aren't going to tell you. I saw a VFX artist.
You got to stalk that bad boy.
Yeah, I saw them showing lightning.
You're like, whoa,
there's no lava.
Yep.
And all the glass pieces were gone, like, because the glass pieces were going to land in the area. And I was like, this is like Thursday. I'm seeing this, and I'm like, Zach, Belika. I was like, Zach, they're changing this. I was like, here's the video. Because I didn't have time to work on it. We our contractors were done. We didn't have the source.
Yeah.
Like Zach, I had to sort of lean on him to like come in at a clutch on Friday.
Yep.
Swapping out the sound for this lightning.
Yep.
They changed it over the weekend to fire.
Wow. See, that's a pro tip, man. You stalk the Slack channel. You got to stalk these people.
Yeah.
You got to run an intelligence.
No one's thinking about audio, man. You got to stalk it. You got to fend for yourself.
There are two things that really frustrated me about that project that happened at the very last minute, and I'm talking about hours without. First, one happened without me knowing about it. One was they took Echo's footsteps. It was a 4-footstep walk cycle. They made it 8-footstep walk cycle.
Oh my gosh! So you had to replace all the
animals. 4 tags were missing. We shipped that with half footsteps.
Oh, that's
half
funny.
Not footsteps.
But you didn't have to go back and add the anim notifies to the animations, though. At least.
No, I did. I had to go back.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, I mean later, like after we already shipped.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I hope I did. Maybe I didn't do it.
Go download it and find out.
Life goes on.
And find it out. And
Life
then
goes on.
The other thing that they did was they added a turbo fly speed, like literally hours before.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
For the drone camera, and I was like, I had no time to like add wind for that. Like it was just like I just found out about it after, I saw the check-in after it was dead. The timeline had been shut down. The pencils down was happening. So. Yeah, it's sneaky designers, sneaky VFX people.
Ed just said, "Is there any studio in the world where this doesn't happen?"
Well, you know what? I'll say this: is if you can forge a rapport with any department, VFX is the top one to forge one.
Yeah, they're chained together, right?
Yeah, almost every time there's a sound effect, there's a VFX, or VFX is sound effect, and they have the same waterfall suffering that we have. And so, yeah. So make friends with all your VFX artists.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right. Yeah. So I don't know. Does anyone else want to add anything? I feel like I've talked a lot, and my voice has run out, and I've hit my 2 hours is like kind of how this is kind of where I hit my wall.
2 solid hours. You want to
still
take?
got like 200 more slides to go through.
I know there were a lot of slides in that. Well, that's yeah. I haven't had time to revisit that.
Oh, I thought we were going to go through them tonight.
Do you take questions from the chat or anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I think there's a bunch of questions, and it felt like we never had the chance to kind of. Happy to, if you want to highlight one, I'm happy to.
I think part of it too is like there is this technical challenge with making games, right? And there's this learning technology and learning your craft and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, it does come down to like, you know, one of my favorite quotes is art is never done, it's just do, right? It's like at the end of the day, it does come down to you got to get this thing out the door, right? And which I think is why it's so important to learn the tools and understand the tools quickly, right? So you can do the things you need to do quickly, but then also always keeping a simplified mindset. Like if we had to ship this thing tomorrow, you know, could I get it to a workable place? And then if you have more time to do other things, that's great. That's like cherry on top, icing on the cake. But always asking that question, like you said, Dan, you're stalking Slack. You're looking because you know, hey, if suddenly we have lightning, I know now I have to have all this task that I got to do. So it's like this forward thinking, you know, as sound designers, as audio people, a lot of times like the project I'm working on right now, we have magic in our game. So it's like, I'm just making a whole library of possible magic stuff.
Yeah.
So that when if it does get to a point where, oh, we got 10 spells or we got these things, I have the framework already because I've thought about it. And you know, it's kind of like mitigating some of these things. Like Ed asked, is there any studio where this doesn't happen? No, it happens everywhere because it's the nature of the beast, right? We're on a huge time crunch to get this out the door because we get it out the door and we all have jobs, right? We all have jobs and we get paid because we hit deadlines and we did all these things. And so it's like always thinking, you know, what are the steps I can take now and learn the tools I can, you know, understand the stuff backwards and forwards so that when crunch time happens, I know, okay, you know what? I'm having voice problems, so I'm just going to up all the concurrencies. Yeah. Like, let's just fix that right now, and then I'll work backwards until we get it the way we want it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one of the things that we started figuring out, I won't say what project it was, but it was like a live update project, you know. And so you get these experiences that keep coming down because there's new stuff that has to happen all the time. And it was coming up with like just anticipating the requests. You know, they come at all different times of the it's live update. You got like a couple months maybe max to work on it, and then
that's stressful.
Go out the door, right? And so it's like, well, if we could come up with like a kit, we know, like
yep.
Right, it's like
an asset pack.
A library,
a
little library.
Yep.
We know the theme going in because that's been determined, you know, early on as part of the pre-pro and all this sort of stuff. And so we can just sort of figure that stuff out. It's like, okay, we know they're going to ask for this kind of sound, and we know they're going to ask for this kind of like stinger.
Yeah.
You know, all this sort of stuff can sort of be anticipated up front, and then we can go through our process, which is, you know, because some, you know, especially if there's something with music, you have to go through recording dates and all this sort of. It can really complicate the production timeline.
Oh, big
right?
time. And
so being able to like anticipate that stuff as early as possible, and the worst case scenarios, you've got some extra material, you know, I think that's a pretty good situation.
Yeah, and I think that's anything. It's just working smarter, right? Working smarter, not harder. A lot of times we blame, you know, other people for, well, design took forever, or we were waiting on lighting. But in the reality, it's kind of like, okay, you're working on an open world first person shooter. Like, you already know pretty much everything you're going to need. From that point, it's just polish, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to see 18 guns to know I'm going to need probably a bunch of gun sounds.
Well, then sometimes they'll surprise you with a gun that also makes music, or like
we went steampunk on this one.
Yeah, exactly.
A forest full of crickets.
A cricket gun.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan's your man. If you need a cricket gun, Dan's your man.
That's right.
Dan, are you using like any sort of spectral editing software to like pull your sources? Like, I mean, where do you get cricket sounds isolated? I'm assuming you're pulling them like from like some sort of spectral editing software.
So it's a mix. I mean, I love recording my own sounds, but I also love I really like really good libraries
Yeah.
source as well. But I like RX.
Yeah.
That's sort of my go-to, and you know it like you know the lasso tool in RX is really powerful for like isolating
Yeah.
stuff. You know, like I've definitely got a bunch of like I'm really bad at this, but every once in a while I'm good about it, and I like have a pocket recorder. You
Like
know,
a Zoom?
if I'm yeah, like I have a Roland R07,
Yeah. Okay.
which is like a little little pocket recorder, and it sounds great, but it's like um, you know those doing your own ambient field recording, that's all opportunistic, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
the how I have a helicopter recording because I just happened to have my gear with me, and there was like a helicopter doing
Yeah. Yeah.
maneuvers, you know, over there, and they were there, and I was like, I was next to a parking garage, so I climbed up
Yeah.
the top of the parking garage to like capture. It's like
Gotta
there's
grab
no
this.
way I know that was gonna happen, you know?
Yeah. Once in a lifetime
Yeah,
opportunity.
exactly. And so, uh, so in those cases, I think RX is really useful
Yeah.
because I do want to do other isolation, denoising, and maybe stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But or like I said, lassoing, like, oh, the seagull, and I don't want
Yeah.
anything
Grab
else. I
that
just want that
seagull. Yep.
seagull,
Yep.
like that,
Yep. There it is.
And so so I like that, and then and then I can sort of build variations and find the elements to sort of build up later. But I also there's nothing I've experimented with some like ambient ambisonics microphones.
Okay.
They're hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
One of the things that I don't like is the narrow mic intersection. So
Mm-hmm.
the sort of listening perspective is like point perspective, basically. Whereas I really like it, like ORTF uh, setup, or like an IRT cross is like, to me, that's like fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Because you get that width that gives you real sense of space and depth in the sound field. And so I prefer those over something like Ambisonics. But and so if I like Ambisonics, I think is one of the frustrating things to bring into RX, right? Is any sort of process that will do phase transformations, because then you
Yeah.
lose the coherency between the different vectors, and that's
Mhm.
really important to maintain.
Yeah.
But if I can capture without having to go into a processor, then that's fucking great.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Like that cricket bed that you heard in there was from Monrovia in like the LA area. A friend of mine, we went up to the mountains to record,
Oh, nice.
and it was hard because like people in the LA area hike all the fucking time. They're just fucking nonstop hiking.
Tons of people. Yeah.
They're just but we were able to capture some like moments, like 40 seconds here or there,
Yeah.
where there was no one.
I don't think people realize how hard it is to capture environments. I went up to a local plant garden, like a botanical garden, and I thought I was gonna get all these amazing sounds. Dude, all I got was cars and heavy construction equipment from the college like 2 miles away.
Yeah, cars, highways. It's really hard to get it's hard to get something between you and the highway.
You got to go out there, man.
You got to go like around a mountain. Like it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did some. I remember asking Andy Martin, like, "Hey, where in Washington can I like record very quiet? I just want air, I just want wind." And he suggested a place, and I went out there, and it was like, it was dead. It was dead quiet. It was not even wind or air. Like it was.
Wow.
I have like
Vacuum.
recordings of actual like silence.
That's funny.
And there was and that's where I captured. I went out there to get air. This is another thing that happens because it's opportunistic. It's also just gambling. Like I went out there to get wind and air, and I got a bee and a hawk.
Yeah,
right?
like
Because
super
that's what was
isolated.
there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like I had a bee that was like hounding my microphone. It was
Oh,
like,
that's
let me get
nice,
my microphone,
dude.
and it was like
A high quality bee with no room noise. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had like there was a hawk doing circles trying to scare up some food.
Probably
And so it
wanted
was
to
just
eat you,
going,
bro.
"Ah!"
Yeah.
You know? And so I got that like but that's not what I went there for.
You get what you get.
You get what you
right?
get.
Take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's why I try to like tell people like if you look at something like Frank Bree's like Thunder libraries, it's like that took a long time.
dude,
You know, like to have a
serious.
library of Thunder, like that's
Dude, you must have been out in the boonies, man, and then waiting for the perfect storm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Libraries are where it's at for that stuff.
Yeah. Also, Thunder is I don't know. I'm glad you can get into it, but you started me on a new topic. We should do this some other time. You should,
Dude, sound design is.
We should talk about sound design.
There are probably more sound designers. Like I was in this conversation the other day about how to get a job, like people getting jobs and stuff in the industry, and it's like there are so many composers, right, that want jobs, right? Tons of composers that want jobs, but the reality is that's probably the rarest job, right? Like composing, especially like in-house composer, very, very few of them. But sound design, on the other hand, is probably the most needed, thing, because everything needs sound. Everything needs sound design, and then technical sound design, obviously. Everything. I mean, probably technical sound design, then sound designer, then composer, right? Like that sort of hierarchy.
Maybe.
But
the problem is that you get. So I think the issue is the studio size, right? And the frequency of the studios of varying sizes. Because I think one of the issues that we have, and we I don't want to get too deep in the economy or get political or anything like that, but we are sort of like struggling. We've got a struggling financial landscape right now.
Situation.
And what you get is you get a very you lose the mid-sized studio, right? It's the same thing as the reduction of the middle class, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so you get these big, huge, massive studios.
Indie and AAA.
Tons of little indie studios. And so, hey, thanks for joining us, Ed.
I appreciate it.
And so you get the big studios, the big studios can support more specialization.
All of that,
right?
Yeah, right.
But like the indie studios need someone who's going to be a composer and a sound
They
designer.
need one person that does it all.
One person that does everything, right?
Yeah.
And they may or may not be able to pay you what what you can live on. And so that's sort of the challenge. And I wish that we had a more robust mid-size, double A sort of landscape.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's
part of it.
That direction. I think that's where the industry's headed. The more slightly bigger than indie, but not quite. But I think, and this is why I've been such a huge fan of Unreal from day one. Is I'm a musician, I'm an artist, I'm a sound guy, but Unreal makes technical sound designing so much fun and so palatable. And for all of I have so many friends that are sound designers and they're having a hard time finding work, and I'm telling them, listen, learn how to use Unreal. Like learn how to, because if you can do that, because most sound designers also do music as well, or at least can edit music and whatnot. But it's like that gap between implementing and sound design is pretty wide, right? It's a pretty wide gap. And so if you can narrow that gap, Yeah, and it actually makes you better at all of the other disciplines. Once you learn how the engine works and you learn how to technically implement stuff, your whole mindset changes as a composer. You're building interactive music systems differently, you're writing music differently, you're sound designing differently. And so that's what I just try to tell people, just learn as much as you can about the engine, because there's a lot of studios that want to hire one person to do everything, right?
I will say that I've seen this a lot where people distinguish themselves as creative or technical and treat it as a mutual exclusion.
Yeah.
And it's not. And I
It's
think
not.
that a lot of audio folks are too ready to undersell themselves in their technical prowess.
Yeah.
Like if you look at all of the sort of creative aspects of producing music or making sounds, it's technical all the way down.
Highly technical.
Just describe it to your family members and just
Yeah.
see them like
Glazed over.
yeah, like how I can't tell because it's too technical for them,
Yeah.
right? And it's like what your mic pickup, which mic you're
Yep.
using,
Yeah.
your signal flow, how you're setting up your DAW for input, whether you're processing on input. We talked about sound design, at the pedal board stage for like guitars and all, and then obviously just sort of creative effects, synthesizers, and all sorts of stuff. All that stuff is super technical. Like
Super technical.
Can you talk about like synthesizers without being technical? Like, no, wait, you can't.
No,
you
impossible.
Can you talk about can you talk about EQ without being like? It's just
Yeah,
it's like
it is technical, right?
It's super technical, and so all audio people are technical, whether they like to admit it or not. And it's
most people who know how to solder are musicians.
Oh
Most
my
musicians
God,
know how to solder and fix cables.
Yeah, you bring in soldering. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this is where I would say, just like you would look at a synthesizer, like just twiddle a knob, find out. Be open to discovery, explore. And it can be a lot of fun, and also I think it's like an attitude thing, like be curious and I think it'll work out. I've seen a lot where people will get intimidated and they'll psych themselves out when they come into to try to solve a problem. Sometimes they'll look at a thing and go, "This is very complicated, and so my solution has to be equally complicated." And that's not the case. The solution should be as simple as possible.
That's how I felt about the first time I learned about gameplay abilities.
Yeah.
You're like, oh gosh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do this. And then after a while, you're like, okay, yeah, I see the power in this thing.
Yeah. Eric is doing stuff that I haven't done, and I would like to learn. But I can't learn just by looking at what he's doing, and I have to do it. I have to
around. You got to fiddle around.
Hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that we should call it.
Yeah, it's been like 2.5 hours.
It's been great. It's been really awesome. Thanks for everyone who joined and was excited, especially to start out at least. And thanks, Brian.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, Eric, for joining. And
as always,
yeah, we should do this again sometime. All right,
do it.
See y'all.
Bye.
Peace out.